I want to start us out with a question. Who here's been to a concert recently? What'd you see? Alicia Keys, nice, okay. I saw some other hands. What else we got? Jamila Woods, all right. Anybody else? Huh? Nice, Beyonce, all right. Oh yeah, over there, let me get it. All right, Diana Ross. So I love concerts, not just because I love music, but because I feel like concerts are this incredible opportunity to see magic happen in real life. When I'm not so much like the magic that's happening on the stage, but the magic that's happening in the audience. When I'm walking into a concert or with 500, 1,000 people around me, I'm pretty much the person I am on everyday life, which can be, maybe a little judgmental, right? And we can all be that way. We're inundated all the time with messaging that encourages us to kind of file each other in categories, right? It might be about race and ethnicity or social class, but it could be about style or it could be about body type, but our brains are constantly forming these categories. But when I'm at a concert, when the lights go down and the music comes up, there's a transformation that happens. I look around me and I see all these people celebrating the same thing I'm celebrating, and my judgment just kind of melts away, right? I find that I'm inclined to think much more about the commonalities that I have with the people around me than I am to focus on our differences. And I'm really struck by how easy it is for me in those moments to just look and see the kind of good person that I know is in the core of everyone. And I'm sometimes feel almost embarrassed for myself that I don't do that on an everyday basis just as regularly. Anybody else have an experience like that with music ever? That to me is the magic of music and the magic of concerts. My name is Bill Carbone, and I'm the executive director of teachrock.org. We're a nonprofit that was founded by Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Stevie Van Zandt to bring that magic of music into as many classrooms as humanly possible. Are there any teachers out there today? All right. Have any of you guys ever used TeachRock resources before? All right, I see a couple, but we got our work cut. Well, you've got the shirt on. I love it. We got our work cut out for us today, but we're very excited to share it with you. So Stevie founded the organization basically thinking to himself, how can I take that magic that happens on stage and use it to get students to get as excited about a class as they might about a concert? How can I use music in a way that might make a kid that thinks that they hate history class or they hate math class almost forget that they're in that class and get excited to participate? How might music make the girl in the back of the classroom that never speaks get excited to participate? How might it provide positive images of every student to feel good and safe in their classroom? Stevie first had those thoughts about a little over 10 years ago. And here we are today at South by Southwest 2024. The organization, as an open educational resource, has more than 60,000 registered teachers in the US and hundreds of lessons and unit plans and full courses. And so today, we're going to take a deep dive into the concept of that music magic with two of the coolest special guests I could ever hope to share a stage with. But the first thing we want to do is just give you guys a look at somebody who's always the star of Teach Rock material, and that's some students. So let's take a look at a Teach Rock classroom.
I like the lesson about Chance the Rapper because it was music that I actually listened to. It was music that I didn't expect for the classroom to be listening to, and it brought joy and a good vibe to the class.
Who can point out Detroit, Michigan on our wonderful map? She's got it. Clap your hands for Tatiana. Does anybody know what this country was like, the United States, between 1940 to 1970?
Back then, the black people and white people were separated because of segregation and racism.
How many African Americans migrated or moved to Detroit in that time frame? Anyone interested in doing some more math? Music is such a great way to not just teach one area. There's so many areas of subject that can be taught through music. By having music incorporated in language arts, history, math, science, there's so many possibilities that can really increase the students' learning.
The votes are in, and today's lesson is going to be about Kendrick Lamar.
Hey. My name's Ben Wides, and I teach at Eastside Community High School. What we were doing here today was a lesson which I was calling Tracing It Back, which was to take an artist that the students are familiar with today, an artist they like, and try to use that to look at what are the sort of historical and musical legacies that might shape an artist like Kendrick Lamar.
He always uses like his platform just to like talk about the real, like what's going on with the world, what's wrong with it, and like what's good about it.
He's always trying to convey some sort of message to it, and the beats are really good too.
And the beats are really good too?
To the 1960s and the Watts riots, it's an explosion of emotion and anger.
Yeah. The context of his lyrics before he, knew about the Watts riots seems so meaningless now.
Yeah.
That there's like this big explosion of violence and against African Americans, and he's just sitting around writing love songs. And he's just like, why am I not writing about this?
We chose this song because this was like very important for his time period. This song was kind of a song that brought together all races. But since it was an empowerment song, it really just kind of gave like this push for people to be proud of who they were.
That similarity of like the mournful yet optimistic.
I think one thing is just engagement, right? Like kids learn when they're engaged.
There's this one line that says, I got power, poison, pain, and joy inside my DNA. It's like you want to be proud of who you are, but you also have that pain. So in your DNA and who you are, you have all these things kind of just mixed up.
When I came to this class and we started listening to Elvis Presley and we're learning about James Brown, you can really like hear how their life really is in the song.
I'm very passionate about music, so listening to the history through the music got me, I guess, like a bigger understanding of it. And it's because we get to have that freedom in this class more and like get to think about our ideas more, you know what I mean, and what we're watching.
And I also think kids want to be engaged. They want to learn. So if they hear a song from an artist that they like, they're coming in already and they're like, oh, okay, I like this. What else you got?
I'm happy to introduce my colleague, Amani Wilson, and bring her to the stage.
Sorry, you're fine. Thank you. Okay. Good afternoon. I don't know if you heard that student at the top who said that when she heard the Chance the Rapper song, she never expected to hear in her classroom. It brought joy and a good vibe. And these are the kinds of things you can't pay a student to say or experience. It has to be real. And the magic is in real experience. We're really happy to have DJ Reborn and Rhapsody here because they are coming at these questions from the from the perspective of performers and recording artists, but there are things we can borrow from that to activate learning in our classrooms. When we created the Artists Council last year in 2023, Stevie posted this tweet, but I'll let Bill speak about the Artists Council a little bit.
So we're founded by Stephen Van Zandt with a founders board of Bruce Springsteen, Jackson Brown, Bono, and Martin Scorsese, which is an incredible group of people. But the work we're doing is reaching all over and reaching kids everywhere. And our dream was to be able to have every kid in every classroom look at Teach Rock's people and see someone that looks like them and their family, and someone that represents what it feels like to be in their house, musically, culturally. So we're so excited to pull this incredible group of artists together as the Teach Rock Artists Council.
So these are our Artists Council in the inaugural class, and we're excited to announce that DJ Reborn will be joining in the 2024 class. And you see Rhapsody there and Erykah Badu. DJ Khaled, Taboo, Melly Mel, and DMC have all contributed already to our work. So students are already living with work that has them speaking to them in their classrooms, speaking to camera. So I'm going to call Rhapsody out and DJ Reborn to join us, and we're going to listen to some of their musical choices and think about how what they do can help us do what we do in the classroom much better. Rhapsody, DJ Reborn.
Hello, everybody. Hey, what's up?
So, I went too far, too fast. Rhapsody, we wanted to ask you, because you have such a committed fan base and they're also anxious for the new album, we wanted to ask you, what is it that you want your listeners to experience when they hear your work?
This new work in particular?
Anytime they hear you,
Anytime.
If they play something old, if they're hearing the new Asteroids, whatever you do.
I always tell people I want to be a lighthouse or a compass for people to find themselves, right? To be an example that you're enough, that you're a light, and also to educate, to inform, not only entertain, because I think it's so important that to have a voice and to have the platform that I have to speak to the things that really affect my community and I want to educate people on. So, it's all those things, just the power of art and how we're all connected and that we're all human in that way. So, that's how I approach my art.
That's so generous. The East Side kids want to know if Kendrick is on the new album.
I could give that information. He's not on the new album.
See, you should have left that hanging.
There are other features, though, I think people will be super excited about.
Okay, are you as excited as the fans are? Because they said you're getting the groceries inside, and we're waiting in the car.
Well, I'm not bringing the snacks. We're bringing full-course meals.
All right,
It's going to
good
stick
to
to
hear.
the bones.
Good to hear. I'm going to just share a little bit from our work that DJ Reborn has contributed to, the Roots of Hip Hop lesson from 2023, our 50/50 edition, our 50th anniversary edition includes this video.
Oh, Lord.
So.
I haven't seen this. In a while.
I just want to echo in the times that we're living in the great Nina Simone and just say that my personal and political belief is that artists have a duty to reflect the times. I encourage young people to do that. I want to reflect the times that I live in, and I want to reflect my heart more than anything.
Yes.
Thank you. We love you for bringing the energy that you take to Glastonbury and the Global Citizens Festival to our students in a classroom. So when you're preparing to make a mix, and you did that on a Tuesday morning at 9, and it was still full of the magic that you always bring, when you're preparing to take us on a journey together, and the audience might be as big as that one is, what is on your mind? What's your guiding principle? How do you bring everyone into the room together?
So set prepping for me is definitely about who I'm in front of, the diversity of the audience, whether it's the country that I'm in, something like Glastonbury where there are hundreds of thousands of people. I'm just thinking about how many different bridges I get to build, because with a crowd that huge, nothing is off limits. So for me, I get to really stretch out and have fun as a DJ, and I don't have to only play hip hop, right? I can play the original funk sample of the hip hop song that everybody knows, or I can play like a rock song that everyone knows that they're not expecting. So my prep process is about expansion and like imagination, and figuring out a way that at some point almost everyone in that crowd can hear something that resonates with them. And then, it's just also about having fun, right? So it's like, I want to have a great time. I want to also play things that people are not expecting, and I want to cover a lot of sonic territory. So covering a lot of genres, covering a lot of eras, so not just classic stuff, new stuff, and just really have the breadth that an audience like that deserves in terms of the range of what I'm playing.
It's awesome.
I love that so much, and I think you guys both said incredible things that make me think of what we can do with students, right? You said you like to be like a lighthouse, right? You like a beacon, and the way you just described using a track and then also playing the song that the sample came from, right? Like these are, the music has these markers in it that just trigger things in our hearts and our minds, and the way we can take something like that and use it for kids is just, it's just the same thing, that energy that you guys have, that I have, that a lot of people out here have about loving music and kind of curating their experience with it is an act of knowledge, right? And it's a joyful act of knowledge. And it's unfortunate that we let the joyful side of knowledge get separated sometimes. So I think one of the things we really care about is music is this incredible way to re-infuse the joy of knowledge back into classrooms.
Yeah, I also think that the other critical piece is thinking of everyone. When you speak about almost everyone in the crowd should find their moment, and a lighthouse can be seen from 360 degrees. We could all see the lighthouse. It doesn't matter where we're standing. It becomes the center. And that's the challenge for us as the adults in the room, to create a reason for the students to enter and a reason for them to stay. This is the cover of the All Right lesson, which we saw those kids in Manhattan.
Yeah, and the other note about what's going on in a lot of the lesson plans there to teachrock.org is that music is providing a number of sensory entry points into school, right? So a very traditional model is that you read something, you respond to it in text, but we know that there's so many ways of knowing and expressing knowledge. So when we use music, you can use what you hear. When we use music videos, you can use what you see. You can come into the knowledge in so many ways, and then we help teachers assess students in all those ways too, because sure, some students may excel at writing, and that's what they want to do, but what about art projects as assessments, or spoken assessments, or all of these other ways? So the arts provide us this multiple entry points and multiple exit points, which really help you get as many kids as possible involved.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful tool that you even made me think of even deeper on a psychological level. You have a kid come in and they may not be able to articulate how they feel, but you could play me a song that describes how you feel, you know, in that way. So I think music is such a powerful tool in so many areas for children to express themselves and see themselves in, for sure.
Absolutely.
This also is reminding me in what seems like another lifetime. I taught with an after-school program called Urban Word NYC, which still is in existence, and they offer free creative writing, spoken word workshops for teenagers in New York City, and they're free, ages 13 to 19. And as a mentor there, as a DJ, I wanted to figure out a way to authentically bring my craft into the writing space. So I created a workshop for the girls in the program because I felt like they needed a space for themselves. So it was DJing and creative writing. And so their reward for the writing prompts and for us doing close lyrical analysis, and we also would analyze women's images in media culture, is that they would then learn the craft of DJing by the end of it. So they were writing poems, and then you know, other people would respond with a mix, and it was just a very cool way to bring the music, bring the DJing, and to make those girls feel very seen, right? Because oftentimes they would disappear into the background. So music is the great equalizer in that way, right? Like you're saying, everyone can find themselves in some part of it, as long as the music programming is diverse enough as well.
That's awesome. And I would also lift that it's important to think of music as a resource for the species, whether we're hearing or we're not hearing. Even in one of our lessons, we have this documentary photo of the Grateful Dead section for the deaf and hard of hearing community, where those audience members are holding balloons because the vibrations are in the space, whether your ears are taking them in or not. Yeah. So as a species, music tells our stories. And so I wanted to ask each of you a hypothetical question that I hope becomes a reality very soon. If we were taking you to a class, what class would you like to visit? And what's the song that you want to use to introduce yourself? And you all responded in advance, so we're going to just look at Rhapsodies first. Yeah. So we have the lyrics up and your album cover, and you chose a tune of your own, which I was really glad for. I couldn't quite ask you to do it, so I had to just send the vibe.
I received
but
it.
Tell us why this song.
Yeah.
And what class you want to visit.
Okay, my class would be psychology, behavioral studies. And I just think it's so important that, you know, we really focus on, too, when we talk about students, that we live in a real world, right? And, you know, our mental health and how we see the world and how we function in it. And this song in particular is 3 verses. The first verse talks about a young girl goes to a party and she has peer pressure of doing, you know, substances and drugs. The next one is a mother and her daughter, you know, out to play, and it talks about gun violence. And this verse is about, you know, what a lot of us can relate to now when we talk about, you know, what's going on in Congo, what's going on in Palestine and in Gaza, you know, about war, right? And it's about seeing each other all as human, you know. I think this world loses a lot of the humanity and empathy in things, and we forget that we're all more alike than we are different, you know. And I think it's just important to have those conversations and to give students a safe space to speak and learn from each other. So that's why I picked this song, and that's why that's the course that I would visit.
It's a really dope song because, for me, I'm a big Amber Navron fan, and her voice is like her flute. Yes. It's like translucent and transparent. You hear through it, but her lightness is such a contrast to what you're saying in the verses, and then to Ninth Wonder's production. So, and I just love it. I'm so glad that that's the song you're going to do when you come and visit a class.
I can't wait.
We can't wait. DJ Reborn, we want to ask you the same question. You told me that this is the song that you wanted.
Yeah, so that song, it was hard for me to choose, but I really love that song for so many reasons, and the class I guess would be like a history or history and politics class, because number one, that song is so interesting to me because it was written in 1971 by Tina Turner's sister, and so there's just so much that I think about when I hear the song, right? Because Nina Simone's rendition of it is really powerful because she starts off singing in like a low voice, and then it kind of gets up to this crescendoed point, in part because of the drumming. But the way that she interprets the song, the way that she sings it, it makes me think so much about history and politics, in particular how governments are, right? And the older I get, and I feel like, as most of us do, when we really learn how the world works and how to connect dots, we see how many things we've been lied to about, and how just taking someone's word for something isn't enough, right? So this song makes me think about the history of politics, right? And the song may be to a particular person or a man, but it makes me think about how I feel about governments, right? And about the deceptive nature of how information is given to us. So the way that she talks about the things you do are never really pleasing, and just the fact that she has this like sneering whisper when she talks about it. The song is so much about, like, I see you. Like, I used to think this was something else, and now I see it for what it is, and you're not fooling me, right? And you're always rapping about the same old things. That just reminds me of politics so much. And then in a context of hip hop, this song is like a big breakbeat song, right? And you hear it in the drum section. And I've always wanted to sample that, like always rapping about the same old things for like a rap song, because I just think it's so right there. But I think that teenagers who are studying history and politics, they could get a lot out of this song. So that's part of why I chose it. That's part of why I chose this section. I like the buildup of it, and I love knowing that it was written by a woman. And it could have been, again, about an interpersonal relationship, but I apply it to a larger sort of global way of seeing things, if that makes sense.
It makes wonderful sense. And I wanted to share one song on behalf of Teach Rock from a recent lesson that we did. So, and it's about New York City salsa and Fania records, and therefore it's about a whole lot of other things, including the African diaspora, the rumble in the jungle, the way that music is a result of political action, because the Jones Act lets people travel freely from Puerto Rico to New York City, and that resettles the community of Puerto Ricans in places like the Bronx and uptown Manhattan. And the name of that song is Mi Gente, My People. And the challenge in it is in the lesson, is for students to think about, who are my people? And there are infinite answers to that question for each of us. And that's the good news, right? Like, when we're thinking about how we're connected, we recognize that we are connected. Often we're in processes that isolate us, slowly and unconsciously. But what we're trying to do with the lessons is also build moments of profound connection to one's own ideas, which I think one of the students said, we get to spend time with our ideas here, which really moves me. The thought that not only did that happen, but that someone was conscious that it happened to them in their classroom. So we seem to have amongst our people Nina Simone hovering over this panel today. Yes. She's from North Carolina, like you, Rhapsody. Yes. You quoted her in your clip. Rhapsody, let me come back to you. What about Nina Simone? What about Nina Simone, I think, is my question.
Man, her fearlessness, her authenticity, her truth, the light that she was an example of in that way. And to be from North Carolina is super inspiring to me. I got on to Nina Simone through Lauryn Hill, right? And when we talk about bridging music and generations, I know how much she inspired her, so that made me want to dig deeper. And What Happened, Miss Simone is one of my favorite documentaries. But, you know, she's a beautiful reminder to, like you say, to always reflect the times. you know, and what she stood for. It didn't matter, you know, what the consequences were. She always stood on what was real and true to her. And that's what I appreciate, you know, in Nina, and why I think she's so powerful and why she's had such an amazing impact on music, art, culture, the world.
Awesome. I'll ask you the same, DJ Reborn. What about Nina Simone?
I mean, I feel like you just said it all, Rhapsody. I mean, another aspect to her, I read her biography many years ago and was, I mean, I've always been inspired by Nina Simone image-wise, right? She was a dark-skinned black woman with natural hair for most of her career, and was fiercely unafraid of, I believe, what people thought of her, right? And she was quite the aficionado as a piano player and a singer and composer in her own right. So those things impressed me about her, but just her vulnerability, right? And I know that she struggled with mental wellness and was, you know, very much just authentic in that way too. So I think she's such a complex artist. She was such a complex artist. She was so honest and so proud, you know, to be from this culture. And I just think she had a way of seeing through things, right? And seeing to the heart of things, speaking about them honestly and unabashedly. And then her talent was undeniable, right? So, you know, she's a fellow Aquarian, right? Did you know that? She's an Aquarius?
Did not.
Rhapsody is an Aquarius. So.
We're some special human beings.
Yeah. So yeah, she just had a way of thinking and being outside of the box, like ahead of her time, but of her time. And she's someone that I could look at and see myself in. And we know how powerful that is for young people as well, to be able to look at an artist and see yourself.
Awesome. And yes, Nina Simone was born on February 26th.
Oh, wait, she's a Pisces.
Oh, did I mess you up? I'm sorry. February 26th, 1931.
That's right.
So 1933, sorry. So she would have been 91 this year. Oh. And as we think about her, it's very exciting that her home is being turned into a museum. Rashid Johnson and Julie Muratu and some of the other visual artists who had that vision are realizing that in this time. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to, at one point, go inside and do something about that, collaborate with them in some way. Bill, why don't you
I want to
bring it back to teaching.
Bring us back home to this idea of music in every classroom. And I think we just heard a lot of the possibility and why it's important and what we can get from it. But, you know, to anybody who's out there in a classroom every day, if you haven't used our material at all, you might be saying to yourself, that's nice, but how the heck what am I doing with this? How is this going to work, you know? So I think that what I'm most proud of that we do as an organization is take these ideas like we've been working with today and really figure out how does this idea fit with social studies standards or the typical expectations for an 11th grade history classroom in the United States. How can we take these ideas and then fit them into any place that it's going to plug directly into a classroom, right? Because the idea that we want is that any teacher can take something from teachrock.org and make it work, right? So if anybody comes to the site, you're going to find these lesson plans that are just ready to go. You'll find student-facing materials. We're really proud right now of a new program we have called Harmony Student Wellness, which is deeply embedded social emotional learning concepts, but taught through music. It's designed to be done by a whole school. And I think we didn't really specifically talk about that today, but so much of what we got into today is core SEL material, right? Like making kids feel safe, making them feel heard, making them understand who they are and the possibilities of their own voice and why their voice is important and deserves to be heard, and empowering them to be the person who can be heard, right? To have the confidence to stand up and be heard about anything. So that's what's going on at teachrock.org. So I hope that you guys will come on over to the site and check it out and the resources. We're one of the ways that we're kind of actualizing some of the things that we discussed today, right now we have a U.S. history elective course that uses music as a primary source throughout. But we're working on this incredible project with the Library of Congress right now to turn it into a year-long U.S. history course that runs Reconstruction to Near Present with music as a primary source throughout. So we feel so excited about that because the smaller course we have right now is approved in California. It's running all over Los Angeles. It's running in Connecticut and in New York and New Jersey and in a bunch of other states. And we recently had the opportunity to visit a classroom with our founder, Stevie Van Zandt. And it was a classroom where they're teaching the course. And the teacher invited some of the students to start the visit by having them say what the course makes them feel like. And a young woman stood up and said, I used to think that I hated history because it was just like having to memorize a bunch of dates and like, you know, court decisions and when wars started and stuff. But now I know that history is about people and I really like it. And that experience I think we can relate to, right? Because I don't know did you like history in high school?
No. It was boring.
It was boring.
You know, but you know, in my adult life, learning in a different way, using music, it's exciting. I love history, exactly. You know. I don't get tired of learning about the past, you know, and how it relates to where we are today. So, music.
Indeed.
The answer.
Yeah, and so that feeling, there's so many people that realize later in life that history is actually quite interesting. And also, history isn't done, right? It's not this thing that happened and it's written down and we just open this book and read about it. History is so dynamic, and every time if we want to bring in Nina Simone or we want to bring in just the idea of Fania Records alone, what's in that video and some of the things Amani shared, I mean, that's an entire course. There's so much happening there about history that's so exciting. So we're really thrilled to bring that kind of work in. It's just so joyous and rewarding to be able to do it and to be able to collaborate with people like you two. Like, I just, you know, pinch me. It's just so cool. It's the nerdy dream. And I think we have a moment now for a little Q&A, right?
Yes, in the spirit of exchange that we like to drive all of our work with an opportunity for student voice and all voices in the room to be heard. We'd love questions from the audience.
We don't see them yet, by the way.
Yeah, we're waiting.
Don't be shy.
There we go.
Okay.
All right, let's see. There's one in big font that I can read and I can answer really quickly, which is, in the English classroom, music and lyrics are a natural fit. History, totally. What does music in the STEM classroom look like? So really quickly I can answer. We have some fantastic STEM. We say STEAM because we squeeze that A in there for the arts. But why does this microphone work when I talk into it? Why does a guitar make sound either acoustic or an electric? We've done incredible work finding ways to make music the real life application of math and science. One really cool partnership we have is with Mickey Hart from the Grateful Dead, and it's an algebra unit around the Pythagorean theorem and the vibration of strings on these instruments he made. So, yeah.
I see two questions that I'd like to combine. One was about how can we redefine the narrative of American popular music? And I'd like to just challenge you to think of popular music on a global scale, because every culture has popular music, and in many ways it's the truest record standing since recording began of a people's ideas and feelings. So that's one question. Now I'll combine this one. How can we give students voice and choice using music in the classroom? So the first thing I would say is that no matter what class you're in, you can play music even if it's not part of what we address in our lesson. As students enter, as they exit, there can be a song of the day, which is something that I really stand by, and with older students, getting a community agreement about lyrics that don't do harm or violence, but you get to choose. And the day before, we announce whose choice it is tomorrow. And everybody is holding them accountable, saying, don't mess it up, because if you don't pick the clean version, she's gonna turn it off. But those kinds of simple additions bring a very different energy into the space. The other thing I would say is, when you're thinking about popular music, reviews and so forth are written by people who have access to those spaces. But if you just look at record sales, and say you're studying 1982, look at record sales from 1982. They tell a very different story often than what the kind of dominant narrative is in criticism or just in marketing. If we could be real, right? A lot of what we end up being told is the case starts out as a press release. And that's a great thing for the artist, but it's not always the accurate way to think about how the listeners are taking in the art. Could the lessons be applicable for electives and after-school clubs? Bill, you want to speak to that one?
Yeah, well, actually, Reborn, tell us a little about the program you had.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is perfect for after-school programming in so many ways, music education, because I think that there's more elasticity around what you can teach and what you can explore. As I mentioned, the program that I did was poetry and creative writing, lyrical analysis, media culture analysis for women, and finally DJing, like learning the craft, the beat matching, how to construct a set. And all of these things are possible, and again, because I do love history now as an adult, just connecting the dots between, if we're playing older music in these after-school programs, what was happening politically when this song came out, right? So you talked about like, what you mentioned, like if it was in the 80s, certain things to look at, right? So a metric for me is like, well, what was happening politically when this song was released? Who was influenced by it? What radio stations were playing it? Because we also know that now we live in a time where radio is corporate owned, and when I was growing up in the 80s, 70s, 80s, we had much more variety, right? And so it's also worth looking at, well, how is this song allowed to come out, right? Would it have been released today if the record label was owned by one corporation that owned every radio station in the country? I'm going tangential here, but I think all of these things are applicable to how we can introduce talking about music. So it's not just simply listening to the music and analyzing the music, but it's analyzing the politics and the industry around it too, that I think gives it a lot of context. That's super fascinating, and I think that after school, that's part of what we always talked about, right? Engaging all those different elements.
And I think anytime, music is an amazing way to make students feel empowered, like they have a choice, right? So when I think back to middle school, one of the things I remember most is that my art teacher let me do a full project that was drawing a picture of the drummer from Metallica. And that is maybe what I remember most about 7th grade. But, and what's really interesting is my daughter is in 7th grade right now, and did an art project around an artist that she really loves, and came running in the door to tell me how cool it was that she's allowed to do this thing, right? So she felt like she was given this gift and this choice. She got to pick who the person was. But then she's working on all these skills while she's doing it, right? So that's the thing, is like for the after school or anytime, it's just like it creates like a funnel for working on skills, right? And you create those ways to engage somebody around it. So I think it's really good, and somebody could take it, and it doesn't have to be about it being about a history class anymore after school, right? You don't have the same objectives. So I think that's oh, did you want to chime in?
No.
It's a great segue into the next question,
Yeah.
which is, what would you say to teachers, leaders who push back on programs like this because they feel the pressure to stay on pace with curriculum and prep for testing, which is such a real situation, right? And I know this is the reality for so many people. And I'd say a few things. First of all, please don't assume that this isn't prep for testing, because we've worked really hard to make it align with standards and to have the skill sets baked in that are getting the kids ready for these testings and things. But I would also say that if it's such that you're in a situation where you're not given creative freedom to change much, there's probably a way to pull in a couple things. So like there's all these different techniques baked into the lesson plans, gallery walks and discussion circles and not debate, but there's structured academic controversies and these different kind of ways to get kids involved. And sometimes I know that I talk to a lot of teachers who say, well, you know what, I can't use that whole lesson, but it has this one thing in it I love so much, and I pull it in, and it makes this class so much better every year when we do this one class. So we love to make things that are pretty modular, right? So we're proud about the fact that if you had to substitute in a class in an hour from now, you could probably pull one of our lessons and make it work. But at the same time, you take what you need, because it's just like performing for an audience. You're on stage, you're the headliner, and you're looking out at a bunch of 13, 14, 15-year-olds or whatever. You've got to keep them engaged, or you don't want to lose your audience, right? So every teacher knows what they have to do to make it work.
Bill, I think if you would reflect a little bit on the Red Bank whole school transformation, that's another way that testing and just school processes are improved if something better is happening with student body.
So quickly, Red Bank is a part of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we were working with a principal there. The school was really, really struggling. Test scores were going way down. They were having major issues, disciplinary issues. They were having issues with respect from students to teachers and even teachers to students. And the principal said, we need to just hit the reset button on this whole school right now and figure out how to change energetically everything. So I mentioned earlier our Harmony Student Wellness Program. It's designed to be done for 15 to 25 minutes a day by the entire school. They extended their homeroom. They integrated this program. Actually, the young woman who said it brings joy and a good vibe is in Red Bank, and implemented this program for 15 minutes a day. So that's it. The rest of the classes, they're back to the normal academic material, getting ready for testing. But that Harmony Student Wellness Program has really helped them energetically change. And the teachers are happy, the students are happy. We're just hearing so much good feedback from it. And that's what's happening to some degree everywhere where we're working.
And there are concrete statistical results that no one's late, people are not absent, because kids said to us that this is why I come, because I don't want to miss Teach Rockets at the beginning of the day. I want to be there. So that's high praise. We take any praise from children very seriously. The last word, I think, can address the last question. Someone's asking about writing cross-curricular music lessons focused on opera, and they're asking what are key principles to engage young minds. And I feel like you both already told us about some of those, but if there was one thing you would recommend for engaging young minds, one small thing, what would you say we should be trying to keep a handle on? What would help?
Let me cross my legs on that one. Opera. I don't know a lot.
Not about opera, but I'm saying what you do to engage your listeners, what you do to prepare for a set with a massive audience are tools of engagement that are universally successful. What's the one thing you would recommend to this person who has a challenging task?
I know I try to always give a variety of energy and emotion, when I'm stepping on the stage. You have fans, but you also have people that have never heard of you. And, I always like to engage in fun ways, but I also like to tap into an emotional human level, too. So that's always exciting to me to figure out how I'm going to tell that story, in what order. I always start with the fun first. I love to open my show like, let's have fun and get you excited about it. Now let's go a little deeper into it. So that's always important to me, and that's one way that, I engage.
Okay.
I think also if you're faced with something challenging in this way, it's sort of your role to figure out how to create a through line with your audience or your kids, meaning like if you're dealing with someone that they've never heard of or some genre that they haven't heard of, your job is to excavate a connecting point, right? So I know we don't have to literally talk about opera, but for me, I immediately think about Leontine Price, right, who is one of the most amazing Black opera singers ever. And then figuring out maybe where this person is from and what their story is, and maybe connecting it to an artist of today and figuring out that through line. Like, oh, well, you like this person? Well, do you know this about this artist? And this is a connection, right? And so I think so much is about meeting people where they're at, figuring out what they like, and then figuring out a way to make a connection, right? Connecting the dots is always possible. Even when you think that it's not, there's got to be some nugget there that you can connect the dot with to keep people engaged.
Such a good answer.
We can't thank you enough, and we could never have enough time. Thank you, Rhapsody.
Thank you.
Thank you, DJ Rita.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys. Thank you.